All right, we're back with another episode. If you're watching this, please click on the subscribe button, click on the notifications bell, comment, let us know what your thoughts are about the conversation that I'm about to have here at the Winner Circle on the It's More Than Just Money Movement channel. Now, today, I've got an amazing guest that I'm going to be throwing a lot of questions at. And I think if you're an entrepreneur, you will benefit a lot from this conversation. His name is Josh Kadish, and I think he's one person that is adding a lot of value in the South African landscape when it comes to the empowerment of entrepreneurs and providing them with value when it comes to funding.
Jeez, thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Nice to have you here. Thank you so much for coming through. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering who's this guy and what's his story. And I love the fact that one would wonder that, because a lot of times we always focus on the glory that people have and we forget to understand what the actual story is. And I'm also interested as well to know more about you, the story, where you come from, and how you got to where you are.
Awesome. Sure. So I'll take you on my story, and then also the story of SourceFin, which is also an amazing and incredible journey as well. So personal story is that I'm a 33-year-old, married, one child, very, very dedicated to my work, to my passions are the pursuit of law as well as entrepreneurship. From a young age, really took to the discipline of law, understanding rules, how things work. Come from a family where I'm a fourth generation attorney. So above me, my great-grandfather was a judge, my grandfather's a senior advocate, and my uncle also was an attorney. So I followed in their footsteps, studied law, really had a passion for it. I've worked up to my master's level at WITS. I also still I serve on an entity called the Companies Tribunal. It's part of the DTI, and I'm you could call it a judge there. And still, that's really my passion. The other side is sort of on entrepreneurship. So I came across and met some incredible individuals, business people that I did their legal work for. In 2021, they gave me a call, said, Josh, come across for a meeting. We've got this idea of a business, and we really want you to be the person to spearhead and to sort of take this to the next level from an idea into a business. And I think that's where my sort of journey on entrepreneurship really started flourishing. The company is called SourceFin. We've been around for around 3 years. We started out really small. Our whole office was sort of smaller than this boardroom we're in today. I was the second employee. We were, shoestrap funding, and we were getting sort of funded by one founder that had a certain check size he could write. We'd fund a deal, help an entrepreneur get the money back in, try to do another deal and fund it like that, and just grew slowly. It's been an incredible journey. Today, we've got 35 to 40 full-time employees, beautiful office we work in, new divisions we're launching, and a brilliant team. And I think maybe you would have felt just coming through to our office, felt some of the energy we've got here. And I think what we've tried to do is nurture that entrepreneurial spirit coming across, that when you walk in here, you're like at a place where you want to be part of the SourceFin story. We want to work with you. We want to see what you do. We care about people. I guess that's a little bit about where I got to today.
Yeah. So I love the fact that you started off by saying that you are the fourth generation attorney in your family. And I'm picking that up specifically because I was interviewing somebody and they said, I'm third generation entrepreneur. And that speaks to, is there such a thing as following in family culture or following in family trade, where one family, it's a group of doctors, the other family, it's a group of nurses, the other family, it's a group of teachers, and in your case, a group of entrepreneurs. Is that a thing that a young person could actually look at and say, what is it that my family is good at, and can I follow into that?
Absolutely. In my case, for sure. So of course, to say just because the people above you didn't do it, it doesn't mean you'll never go into it. So if you're the first entrepreneur, first gen, somebody's got to start it. It's definitely not a limitation. But without a doubt, when you're sitting around and you're seeing your grandfather at the age of 85 still working every single day, 7 a.m, 7 o'clock at night, caring about his work, you see there's a certain expectation and a certain way of dealing with things that gets passed on to you naturally. So for me personally, I was just wired in a way that everybody in my family valued education and, gaining information and skill. What you do in terms of law, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, you do it, but you care about your work, you look after your family, and you make sure that you do things properly. There's a family name that you have, and you make sure that you look after that. And I just always naturally felt that way. The fact that I ended up also being a fourth generation attorney wasn't necessarily planned, but I definitely think from a young age, when you see what people do and the importance that you put into the discipline of your craft, I think it's something that can put you in good stead. For me, there's no doubt. And I would be shocked if there isn't a fifth generation after this that follows in the footsteps.
You reckon? But you've started now a cycle where there's entrepreneurship in the mix. How did you pivot from being an attorney, being in love with the law, being in love with the rules, to then jumping in to say, I'm getting into business and I'm going to become an entrepreneur? That link, for a lot of people, especially people that are academics, which I think law is, don't easily now pivot into a different industry like entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. So I think the one thing is, a lot of people think if you're working at a corporate, or you're an attorney, or you're an engineer, or you're a doctor, whatever it is, that's your pursuit, that's your profession, that's what you do. I think there's a lot of people in these industries that are entrepreneurial by nature. And I think that whether you go and you start your own business and you do a startup and you head it up, or you just bring that into what you do, you bring your entrepreneurship into business, into your law firm, whatever it is super important. So I knew always, I didn't, when I was drafting a contract for a client, I wasn't asking them questions on which clause should we put, how should we define this. I was asking, what does your business do? How do you make money? What are we trying to protect? What is your biggest risk in your business? My questions were always more focused at the client's business. Whereas I noticed other attorneys were like, okay, so I know I need to go and draft a shareholders agreement. So how many shares are in the company? What's the value? Okay, more, how did you value your company? That's amazing. Tell me about your story. What do you sell? How are you different to your competitor? So I knew I always had that, which put me in good stead in the legal profession. But I always felt that I had like sort of an underlying passion to do it myself. I watched all these people. I sat at the table. I drafted them a contract, and then they'd sign the contract and I wouldn't see them again. And I'd be like, what happened with that acquisition? I watched a big company go and buy this small mom and pop store to incorporate and absorb. What happened afterwards? I drafted the contract, but I didn't see what happened 2 years later.
Sure.
And it always left me wondering, whereas some other attorneys were like, Josh, you've done it. You closed the file, you billed your fees. Why are you asking me that? So I always had that passion, and I think it's something that I brought across. I think if you've got an entrepreneurial spirit or not. And some people have it and they're just sort of born with it, and others have to just nurture and sort of let it evolve. But yeah, I think too often people think that if I'm an attorney, I'm a lawyer, I need to do my years, I need to study 6 years, then do my 2 years articles and whatever. Yeah. If you know you got the passion, don't limit yourself. Do it on the side. Bring it into law. Follow that pursuit. So that's something I always kept alive. I knew I had it. I kept it alive. And eventually I brought it into SourceFin. And it's been incredible. And then it's about finding like-minded people. That's the next step that you have to do.
Sure. So we're building a case here towards SourceFin, right? So, and what I'm hearing from your story is that it's building its case on its own, in the sense that you became an attorney, and then now you're drafting contracts for business people, and you are sitting around the table seeing how they are doing their business. Well, you didn't see it afterwards, but you would understand what their business is about. Could that be the reason that you ended up being CEO of SourceFin and doing the work that you're doing?
For sure. I think it was also that problem-solving ability. So as a businessman or an entrepreneur, what you're trying to do fundamentally in a business is you're trying to solve problems for customers. You're identifying a problem in the marketplace and you're saying, how do we solve it? As an attorney, you're actually doing the same thing. You've got two parties sitting around the table. The problem is, number one, they've got to resolve some of the issues that they haven't even thought about, that you need to think about for them. Number two, they need a contract, or they need a will, or they need whatever it is. So for me, it was always, I'm solving a problem. It's not, I'm just drafting you a MOR. I'm literally solving your problem. And for me, that was the step towards why I wasn't too nervous for entrepreneurship. I saw it as the same thing. The business case was, there's a problem that exists in the market. There's a lack of funding in a certain area. Just like I would have done as an attorney, how do I go about doing it? What do I need to do? I need to understand my customer and I need to bring them a solution. And for me, if you can marry that with being client-centric, making sure that whoever your client is, whether it's your client and you're a lawyer, whether it's your client and you're a funder, are you looking after their fundamental needs? And can you do it in a way that has a use case and that you can make money off? The answer is yes. then you've got yourself a business. And that's what I always thought about when I moved across is I'm not too scared. It's not going from law to, speaking a foreign language. It's using those skills just in a different way.
Where did you learn that? The problem solving ability, or the ability to pick up and understand that it's not even about law or medicine or entrepreneurship. It's about problem solving. Who taught you that?
So I'll tell you, the most important thing in my whole life that's guided me to where I am is the mentors that I've had mentorship. So from a young age, growing up, having the parents and grandparents I've had, but then moving professionally, most importantly, I've been so blessed that the people that I've had have mentored me. So what's great about being a lawyer is your first 2 years, you're useless. You're making photocopies, you bringing waters and coffees.
Is that before articles or during articles?
During articles.
Yeah.
As much as you might think you Harvey Specter or Mark Ross from Suits, you're literally useless for 2 years. But you have to be a sponge. That's the truth. And I knew that from day one. My mentor that I had in my first year said to me, anything you think you know, cases you learned, leave that at the door. What you're doing is you're going to sponge off me. You're going to sit with me in every single meeting, and you're going to learn. And I had that approach. I was just hungry to learn. When I finished with him, I went to another partner and said, do you have any work I can help you with? My boss went home at 7. I went at 8 o'clock to the guy that works till 10 and said, what do you need help with? And same thing, the next year I knew I wanted to move from litigation, which is more to do with cases and arguing, into commercial, because I knew I had that business wrong. They told me you can't come into commercial. Candidate attorneys, clerks don't do commercial. Said, cool, I'll wait my time. In a year's time, I'll prove myself. Moved up into that division. And once again, just wanted to prove myself. And I had an incredible mentor that taught me from the start that your job is you have to remember your client has one lawyer. You might have 500 different clients, but to your one client, you're their only lawyer. So make them feel like that from the start and solve whatever problems they have. There's nothing we can't do if we're solving their issues and making them happy. And from that stage, I learned off these mentors. I was very lucky also. Once I left law, I had another incredible mentor that I've worked off, and he's taught me exactly how to take a business, which he's done himself, from a 1-man or 2-person show into a giant. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So for me, without that mentorship, I don't know if I'd ever get there. And I've just been incredibly lucky. And I think I would say you have to value that mentorship above anything else. Too often people are trying to think, how do I make money? How do I quickly scale my startup? How do I sell my startup? Just take it easy. Take a deep breath, learn, build. You'll make mistakes, see the positives. And so for me, mentorship is so important. And it's something that I want to also make sure we pass down at SourceFin.
Mm-hmm. So I love that illustration on mentorship, because I want to ask, is that something that SourceFin is all about? I mean, maybe you can take us through what SourceFin really does for the entrepreneurs that you guys work with. Is there a mentorship element that is mixed with a funding element? What's going on there?
Absolutely. So perfectly said. So what we noticed from the start was either there's a lack of funding in certain areas, or the funding is not being used in a way that is super effective. We found our niche area, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But in terms of our service offering, instead of just giving money to a person, putting it in the SMME's bank account and saying, this is your repayment date, I'll see you when that day hits. We walk through the entire journey. So we sit down, every single client we meet with in person in this office. We bring them in. Even if we have to fly them here, we do it. We meet them, we hear their story, we understand what their problems are. We then decide, is this something we can help with? Will we add value? And we work on a profit share basis, meaning we're almost JVing with you. We're doing this project together. We want to work with you because we want your project to work so we can all make money. And what we make sure is that every single client is treated in a way that we're not just a funding house that's going to inject money into your bank account and just forget about you. We're going to make sure that every single thing you might need, we'll help you find it. If it's sourcing, we'll go out and source with you. We'll buy you whatever you need to buy. If you need help on the ground, we'll send our project manager there. You need a lawyer? No problem. We've got a team of 6 or 8 lawyers here. You need an actuary, you need someone to help you with tax. Come to us. Don't worry. And it comes at no fee whatsoever. This is all part of the partnership. So that's the approach we took right from the start, and we've carried through. And we've got clients who are good on the funding side. They've actually built up enough money themselves, but they love the ability to have SourceFin helping them on their projects, mentoring them. And eventually they might graduate and get to a point where they say, guys, thank you for taking me on this journey, but I'm good now. But most of the time people stay with us because we add that human element of being there. Whether it's mentorship, you might get guys that don't need the mentorship, but they want the back end support. It's here. We got a team of 35 young professionals, guys that are experts in so many different fields. Tap into it. It's yours. The second you partner with us, this office is your home as well.
Yeah. So how does that then work? So if I'm not taking the funding, for instance, or the loan, right, or the profit share agreement,
yes,
but I'm saying I love you guys as a partner and I want to work with you guys because I get the benefit of mentorship, I get the benefit of having a support team. How then does it work in that instance?
Absolutely. So it does sometimes happen where clients will come through and say, listen, I might not have a live deal I need you to fund, but I love the way you helped me on procuring and sourcing or getting me a quote on something, helping me with my taxes, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. We're there. If you're a client that we've worked with, we help. We want
to see it for clients that have worked with you.
So if you're a new client and you've got a use case for it, of course we'd help. But by the same token, we're also a business. So we balance it. So of course, if we helped everybody for free, we wouldn't have a business. But by the same token, we're also working on training, development. This is a whole different business unit you're touching on that we'd like to do. So there are various elements. Most of the time, the guys do need funding, which is absolutely perfect. But if you need help to get to where you need to, bring it in. And if there's a use case, we'll help you.
Do you think you guys are reaching enough entrepreneurs? Looking at the South African landscape, is there a lot of people, black or white, that are starting businesses, that are putting themselves out there, that are coming to you guys and saying, listen, I need funding?
Absolutely. And we definitely not reaching enough people yet.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking this question is that I'm looking at South Africa as a whole. I'm looking at the African landscape as a whole. And I'm thinking, do we have enough people starting businesses? Because earlier on, so I'm talking to this guy and he says to me, he's a website developer, something like that, right? Software developer. And he says, I've now merged my software development skills with AI, but I'm now working for a company that's based in Europe and I'm working from my house. Okay. And I said to him, okay, that might be good for you as an individual, but is that good for us as a country if we're losing the best people to
absolutely
other countries across the world?
For sure.
Right. And I'm asking, and I'm bringing it back to you saying, do we have enough people that are saying, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship, I'm starting a business, I'm taking the risk, the business is growing, now I'm finding SourceFin as a partner?
So it's a great question. I think part of the things is there might be a need or want people willing to do this, but they don't have support. There's nowhere to go. How do you get money? How do you get funded when you don't have a balance sheet, when you don't have security, when you don't come from money? So people are having to go and work a 9-to-5 job to make enough money to save up to then try and launch their business. So I think there are a lot of sort of hurdles where somebody like that in the software or tech game, where do they get funding from? You go to a bank, the bank says, no problem. Do you have a property or a car that I can bond? No, I don't. Okay, what's your balance sheet? No, well, it's a brand new business. I don't have financials yet.
Sure.
Cool, come back in 3 years. That's just going to stifle any potential entrepreneur from starting a business. So I think the desire is there. I think as South Africans, we exceptionally entrepreneurial. I think South Africans love business, love coming up with new ideas. But I just think we're not yet developed enough to help and support everyone. And maybe it's bigger than just South Africa. Maybe it's a global issue. I've spent some time, I was lucky enough to go to the UK and the US last year to meet different funders, to see what guys are doing in the fintech space. And SMMEs are really at the core internationally
of any country's
economy. They're the backbone, and that's always going to be the case. But are the finance houses there to support them to get there? Is the government doing enough to make sure that you can go and do this?
Do you think the government is doing enough?
So do you know what's really interesting? We've actually been working with, for example, the government. We met some amazing guys, but in Gauteng, we're working with something called the Enterprise Propeller Fund. And a lot of people just don't know about it, but they geared up and they've got an amazing mandate to go out and help
the GEP, Gauteng Enterprise. Yeah.
So we actually have launched a partnership with them, SourceFin and GEPF. And we didn't even know about them. It's something that when we started SourceFin, we might have actually gone to them for funding, but we never knew. Then when we got big, we started noticing some clients graduated from them to us. We called them in, we said, guys, maybe there's some common grounds. They loved what we did. We loved what they did. I think it's just about knowing what's out there, who qualifies, how you qualify. For me, funding is always cash flow, and funding is going to be the key to unlocking the true potential for an SMME. If you don't have those two things, you're never going to get to that point where you've got these startups, these businesses. It's never going to work.
Yeah. So you said something about mentorship earlier on, when you're narrating the story of your journey. And it made me wonder if there's a young person listening to you, they're like, yo, but this guy is well-spoken. This guy sounds smart. I'm not as smart as he is. I'm not as well-spoken as he is. How exactly does he find these mentors? And how can I, where I am, whether I'm in corporate somewhere, whether I'm selling bread at some bakery somewhere, how can I have access to these mentors?
Sure. So it's a great question. I think what I would say is this. I think firstly, people must never feel that because somebody's well-spoken or they haven't had the same background, they can't do things. We're all smart in different ways. We've all got different strengths. I think it's about narrowing what you're looking for. So if somebody approaches me and says, Josh, will you help me? Will you mentor me on this? I want to know before I commit my time. And remember, as a mentor, the person that's in the shoes, your most important commodity you have is your time.
Sure.
So if I'm going to invest my time in you, I want to know, what am I getting out from you? I will invest my time, but what am I getting from you? I don't need something for me personally, but I want to watch your growth. I want to make sure that what I'm doing is going to have an effect. So what I would say is, if somebody has that, go out and see what industry you want to go into. Don't just go up to a guy that's the CEO of a big bank, but you're looking to launch sort of a beauty range. Go out and find what you're looking for. Go to that mentor. Say, I love what you do. I've listened to a podcast. I listened to an interview. I saw what you do. It's incredible. You're a game changer. I haven't had the same background you had, but I want to learn. I just want to learn from someone like you, and make out your use case to that person. Tell me, come to me, say, Josh, I want to start a funding company. I want to start it small. How did you start SourceFin? Don't come and tell me that you want to go and, become a baker and start selling bread, because I can't help you there.
Sure.
I think it's about knowing what you want. Tell them what your vision is. Tell them what you're looking to do, and explain to them what their investment of their time will see in you. They don't need money from you. They want to see you grow. And they want to make sure what they're giving you in terms of their information is being absorbed and growing. That's really what a mentor wants to see.
What if the guy argues and says, but Josh, it's not even about the industry, it's about problem solving. So you said so yourself in the podcast. So what would you say to that guy? He says, okay, I hear you. Yes, I want to start my bread business, but I like the fact that you know how to solve problems. You can teach me that. That's the reason why I want you to be my mentor.
So I love that. If somebody can come and argue like that with me, I already know that you're a good candidate for me, because you're telling me something that's true. Yeah. So I love that. You don't have to be a copy and paste and looking to launch SourceFin 2.0. But come and tell me, Josh, I love problem solving. I want to learn how you problem solve. Come and do that. So I think having that initiative, don't be shy. Email the person, go meet them at their office. Do what you need to do, get there. You'd be surprised. Everybody's really nervous to get to a CEO, get to this important person. You'd be surprised. They'll be willing to see you. And you know what? If they're not, just keep trying. Try different people, try different avenues. Go and pitch up at their office and say, I want to come and see you. You can have 5 minutes. This is why I want to see you. Do it. What do you have to lose? Worst case, they say no.
Sure. Is there a thing as mentors see themselves in the young startup guy?
I think often. I think things would resonate often, and sometimes people do. But I think also it's not like just because I've met you, I want to help you. But for example, I know what mentors have done for me in my personal sort of life. And for me, that's always going to be something big. So at SourceFin, I've got people that I'm personally responsible for managing. And then over and above that, there are other people who I'm helping with different things they're doing, whether it's side hustles, whether it's just giving them advice on legal stuff. But I'll know, because of what I've got from my mentors, I will be forever indebted. And the only way I can pass that on and make sure I'm keeping it is by doing the same thing. I'll never be able to give my mentors back what they gave me. But all I can do is one day be that same story and hopefully have someone on a podcast and say, Josh is my mentor, he got me here. That's all I want to do. So no matter how busy I am, I'm always going to make sure that I'm contributing to the learning of somebody else.
Do you plan in terms of 20 years, 5 or 10 or a day? What sort of planning do you put into the stuff that you do in your personal life and in your business?
Absolutely. It's a good question. I do. I've got in my personal life certain goals and certain things I wanted to achieve, both up until the age of 30 and now beyond. And those are big picture goals that I want to do and achieve, not just from a financial or a promotion or anything where SourceFin has to be, also about you personally, what you want to develop, what you want to grow, what you want to be as a person giving back to society above anything else. My goals don't revolve around having boats and cars and holiday homes. That's not what my goals are about. It's about what is Josh going to be at 35? What's Josh going to be at 40 as a person? At what skills do I have? What can I do? What difference am I making? And then as a business, we do. So I'm very lucky that I've got brilliant strategists at SourceFin that force us to all sit down. As entrepreneurs, often your mind's all over the place. You want to chase an opportunity. You want to close a deal. Yeah. But you also need some people that sit you down and go, what are we looking to achieve? And we've actually got the most incredible thing at SourceFin. It's something called OKRs, which we do.
OKRs?
Yes, I'm not sure if you've heard of them.
No, I haven't. You can tell me about them. I want to learn.
Sure. So there's some companies, I think Google and Microsoft are some of the examples of companies that have used it successfully, but it's objectives and key results. So what it means is, as a company, we sit down with the board of directors and we say, what big picture objectives do we want to achieve in this financial year? What we then do is we chop it down into the quarters. So we do ours quarterly, and there are a lot of different ways to do it. We do ours quarterly. From that, we create strategic objectives. So as a strategy, we want SourceFin to be the biggest purchase order funding company in South Africa. That's the goal that we say we want. Now you unpack that. So you say that's the strategic objective. Let's unpack that strategic. What underneath objectives do we have? And what you do is you drop that down, that the CEO all the way down to the receptionist at the company are all working on something to contribute to that. And under each objective is a key result. So a key result would be something that shows you working towards achieving that objective. Each quarter, we sit as a company with every single employee. I sit with my Exco team and every employee at SourceFin. We go through their objectives and their key results. And it's different to a KPI, which is about your key performance as an individual. Sure. That's close X amount of deals, have X amount of bad debt in a year. Those are your actual key performances. This is something more lofty. This is about how are we as a company contributing. So when we go and we close a partnership with City of Joburg, first landmark partnership, we close it. Every person in the office feels that they contributed towards that. And the truth is that they have. Yeah. It's not even just making them feel like that. And it's been exceptionally sort of beneficial for us. And what we do is each quarter, we do that. We present to everyone. And even me as the CEO, I've got my own OKRs that I need to work towards. The company can come be and like, Josh, listen, you've got this objective. Are you going to hit your objective? Everybody's accountable. Everybody's independent. And we're all working towards something. So it's an incredible tool we've brought in. And that also helps us plan for what we want to do for the year. So now we've just done our new financial year. We're looking towards March onwards. What do we want to achieve? What are we doing? We're closing out Q4. Let's look at what we're doing in Q1 of 2025. So there's always different things coming. And I think it's a really important tool to have.
Is that something that you're also instilling in the startup companies that you're working with, for them to be able to have those OKRs within their companies, and for you to be able to see them achieving those results that you guys in the big picture side of things are putting across to them?
So we're going to be doing that. This is our first year of doing OKRs. So we actually did it this financial year.
First year in 2023?
Yeah, so 2022-23 year. So we tied in with our financial year. And this is our first year doing that. So we decided, let's learn it, let's do it ourselves, experience it. And our team can then pass this on to clients. And it can even be its own almost division. It can be its own company in SourceFin, where you offer this as going to a company and say, guys, there's lots of great things going on, but who's sitting down and actually plotting your objectives for the year? Who's holding people accountable to it? Yeah. And so it's been incredible for us. And as soon as we close it out, we're going to start knocking this on to clients and helping them. And if you're a 2 or 3 person show, doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing this as well. So we want to explore it, and we want to show the benefits that we've done ourselves. The only way to really prove it is to show what we've done ourselves. And it's been incredible for us. It really has.
Is that important to you, that you have to do something first before you get somebody else to do it? Is that something you do in your own personal life as well?
I believe I do. I do think so. And another example is, even as the CEO, something that I always felt was, if I try to tell somebody how to do their job, why are you doing it like this? I don't understand. If you're speaking up from a position as a CEO and you've never really done something, so if we've got guys in our deal team helping a client get funding, and they're doing something wrong, well, they're not doing it the way I think it can be done. If I'm just speaking from a position where I've never actually done it myself, are you going to be as receptive if I was there myself? So what I've done is I was in the company when there were two of us. I was drafting legal agreements, meeting a client, going to the bank, treasury. I was doing the accounting. I was doing every single function in the beginning. So when I'm speaking to somebody or coaching them through some of their tasks, I'm speaking from a position of actual experience. It's not just a position of I read this in a book or this is what I want to do. And I think a lot of the people at SourceFin respect that because they know I was here right in the beginning. I'm not a CEO that they hired because the company got big and they want to go to another level and I'm coming here to change things. I've literally done a fortune of the tasks. I might not have done all the tech tasks, but I know tech are building towards something in the business. So when tech are doing something, I'm not going to tell them how to code because I don't know how to do that myself. But I can tell them what user feature, what their UI and the UX should be because I've used the app myself. So for me, that's very important as a leader is might not be able to know everything, they've done everything. But if you can, spend some time, be humble, go in and see what somebody does, go and understand their job that they do every day. If they're underperforming, maybe there's a reason they're underperforming. Maybe from a pure process-wise, you're not doing something right. How can I tell somebody how to close a deal if I've never closed it myself? How do I tell you how to treat an entrepreneur if I'm never client-facing? So those are things that I've always taken as a CEO. And it's not to say that I'm right, but that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah. Do you think entrepreneurs should get their hands dirty first before they get other people to get their hands dirty?
Absolutely. Most importantly, how do you know how to recruit for somebody? How do you go and hire somebody to bring in when you don't even know what it takes itself? I know that I'm hiring people that are better than me in a specific thing. And you got to be humble as
So you can't know they're better if you've never done it.
For sure. How do you know that? And if they're not better, why are you getting them? So yes, you can't do everything, but surely you know that as a person, you can't be the best at every single thing in your company. And if you think you are, you're just being disillusioned to yourself. So go out and say, I've done this before. I know what skill needs. I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a certain person. Go and recruit them, but try to do it yourself first. And then let them blossom. Let them take it to another level. And at least if you're giving advice, the person can turn around and go, oh, that's why Josh is saying that. He's done it himself. Oh, Josh says we should close a deal within 48 hours. Is he doing that? Oh, yes, he did it yesterday. I know he can do it, so why can't I do it?
Do you subscribe to any management style?
I do. So I believe in one-on-one personal man management, meaning that the way that I'm going to manage, supervise, train, deal with you is not the same way that I'm going to deal with somebody else. I've always believed that part of the most important thing as a CEO is actually psychology and EQ, not IQ. So people think the CEO is the smartest guy in the company. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. It's not really relevant. What's most important is that the CEO understands his business and the CEO understands the people that he's going to be managing and has the respect of them. If I'm in the trenches, I'm going through something difficult, I want to know the team has my back. The team care, the team want to fight for me. The only way I can do that is to effectively manage and make sure my team knows I'm there for them. They're going through something tough, I'll come and do it with you. What do you need? How can I help you? Is there something we can do? Sometimes I'll go in and I'll do a deal with one of my team members. We'll sit together and do it. They're going on leave, let me pick it up, let me help. My time's not more important than anyone else's. We're all here together. And I think also you've got to remember, every single employee has a different story. Every single employee has different strengths and different weaknesses. Not just employees, just every person has that. Just don't prejudge, don't have a preconceived idea. Take the time to sit down and to understand the person. And if they're doing something, just try to understand the underlying reason. This person's being really arrogant. There's lots of complaints coming through from clients. They really don't like them. Sit down and think, why? Is it the guy he doesn't even realize that he's being arrogant? Nobody's ever taught him how to communicate effectively. He doesn't even realize, or is he doing it on purpose? And if he is, why? Sit him down, say, listen, what is the story here? Whereas with somebody else, you can treat it totally different. So you've got to be able to have that acumen to know no two employees are the same. And you've got to be able to manage each one on their own merits. That's my style. Some people will go and have something different and say, you treat everyone the same. There's no favoritism. There's no difference in approach. I'm consistent. And that might work for them. For me personally, I want to always be somebody that can be approachable. I'll always treat you with respect, but I've got very high expectations of you and always deliver for me and I'll always deliver for you.
Sure. So do you think that being able to communicate effectively has anything to do with your success personally?
I do. I'd say my biggest skill is probably on the communication side, and it might be why I'm always talking as well. But I think communication is my biggest skill. And I'll tell you something that's so important, and something which I would say to all entrepreneurs and all leaders: just explain things as simple as possible. Don't even like you mentioned AI earlier, right? Everybody's an expert in artificial intelligence now, but try to ask them to explain. With the second you hear someone tell you that they use AI, ask them to explain to you what AI they use in their business. Say, tell me what AI you actually use. See if they can explain it to you in a very simple term. And as an entrepreneur, just remember, if you're trying to sell your product to a client, to an investor, to whatever, if you can't very simply explain what you do, how am I ever going to invest in your company? How am I ever going to support you? You can't explain to me what you do. How am I going to understand it? So for me, that's always been my approach: is don't overcomplicate things. You don't have to sound like a genius. Just explain in simple form. Communication. Just tell me very simply what it is you do, what it is you need. And for me, that's a very important skill to have.
And then how does a young person listening to you say, wow, I love that? How do they develop their own communication skills?
So I'll tell you what I used to do, and it was when I was studying.
I can tell you did something. There's no way.
Sure. So I'll tell you something that I used to do. So I'd read, for law, when you're studying, you've got to get through hundreds and hundreds of pages and hundreds of cases. And people are like, how does that guy remember every single case? How does that guy remember every single word of the textbook? That's totally the wrong approach.
You're not Mike Ross.
I wish I was Mark Ross. I met some guys at law school that used to tell me they were Mark Ross. I don't know where they are today. Yeah. But I think the most important thing I used to do is I spent 2 hours studying 5 cases, studying 3 chapters. After that, I would go to my younger brother who knew nothing about law. And I would say to myself, explain to him, a 12-year-old, explain to a 12-year-old what you read in a case, how you did it, and ask him if he understands. If you can do that, it means you understood and you could communicate. So that always was my thing is, you can read 50 pages, 100 pages. Do you understand it? Prove it. Go and explain it to a 12-year-old. Go and explain it to somebody that has no idea. And if you can't do that, it means you don't understand it yourself. So go in and unpack it. Read a page and go, but what does that actually mean? Go read a case and go, well, what's the effect of this case? Why am I studying this case? And then go and explain it to somebody that's not a lawyer. Go and explain it that's not an expert in your area. And that teaches you to be able to differ your communications. One day I'm in a board meeting where I'm getting absolutely roasted by some of the top entrepreneurs in our country, in our board. And when I say roasted, in a good way, they're holding me accountable for what they expect. Yeah. The next time with a guy that's selling coffee, he's just started his entrepreneurship and he's from a completely different background. Can I communicate effectively to both? That's the question, and I need to be able to. So it's about varying your skills. And for me, both are as important.
So one guy once said to me, he's like, witness, if you can't explain your business to your grandmother who didn't go to school,
love that,
you've got no business doing that business. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I think that is absolutely accurate. And if you're listening to this, or if you think about your business, don't get bogged down too much in the detail. Rather just take a step back and go, just at the very core, could I explain this to my grandmother? Could I explain this to my younger brother, whoever it is? Can I explain what I do? And is he going to turn around and understand? Is she going to understand what I just told her? If the answer is no, go back and figure out what it is. Because if you don't know, you don't understand. If you can't communicate it, you don't understand it.
Okay. So you said something earlier on that you guys fund entrepreneurs who've got purchase orders, right? So what about the entrepreneurs that are startup, but they don't have purchase orders?
Sure. So what we decided was this. In order to be a meaningful company, of course, we want to help and fund and do as many different deals as we can. But
you want to see the man. Show me the man.
For sure, right? But you also need to be able to be the best at what you do. So you can go and be a jack of all trades and offer 20 different ways of funding. But are you going to meaningfully actually assist anybody, or are you going to be a jack of all trades and never help? So what we decided to do was narrow it down. What can we help with today? We started our purchase order funding project. That was step 1. And there's quite a cool story of how we started. So during COVID, there was obviously a need for PPE. And one of my partners is sort of one of the biggest guys in the country in terms of importing things from China. He was bringing face masks, PPE, all of that importing it to South Africa just before full lockdown. As he brought it in, lockdown hit. Who were the guys that needed PPE the most? The SMMEs and the tenderpreneurs that were delivering for government contracts. And although there's a lot of sort of, different approaches or different thoughts towards, a stereotypical tenderpreneur, I think there's a very big misconception as well. The majority.
What do you think is the misconception?
So from what I found is you hear tenderpreneur, you think, when I say you, the
general public, yeah.
Dripped out in Louis Vuitton, driving a G-Wagon and inflating prices by 1,000% and never delivering to government and winning contracts fraudulently. For me, that is part of a misconception. In reality, that is such a small percentage of the true SMMEs that do work for government. That's an outlier. Of the hundreds and thousands of people I've met in the last 3 years, I can count on my one hand how many of those guys I've met. All the rest are general business, good business people that want to do things, want to make stuff happen, and want to deliver. Unfortunately, like in any industry,
focuses on the
absolutely
few people that actually splurge out their money on.
And it's in every industry. There's bad lawyers, there's bad doctors. There's in every single industry you get a handful. But tenderpreneurs, there's just something in our country that, between whatever it is with the government, the feelings towards that, the feelings towards service delivery, it sells. Those stories sell. The guys delivering every single day, they're not going to be in the newspaper, so nobody's going to know about them or hear about them. Those are guys I meet every single day, and I'm inspired by them. They're amazing, amazing guys and ladies. And, we're always working with good people. That's our most important thing. We will not work with somebody that we don't believe is going to be a partner. If we think, this person's okay, but it's a once-off, we don't find. We only find with people that we want to work with, hopefully in the future for the long term. And our retention rate is exceptional. We've got about a 40% retention rate, which means that if you win a deal and you get funded by us, at least 40% of the time you're going to come back to us. The other 60 doesn't mean you don't like us. It might mean you funded it yourself, or you didn't get another deal, you didn't need money. But 40% of the time, which is unheard of in the finance game, you'll come back to SourceFin.
Yeah, is there specific interest rates that you guys charge, or it differs from entrepreneur to entrepreneur or deal to deal?
So because we do profit share, it differs, because what we'll do is we'll look at your deal. You'll say, Josh, I need SourceFin to help me. I've got to go and deliver hats to Transnet. Say, cool, what do the hats cost?
Hats to 1,000 people who are watching.
Exactly, right? So we go and say, cool, no problem, witness, where do you get the hats from? Do you have a supply quote? Great. Okay, so your supply quote's 100K, right? So you need 100K from us. What are you selling it for? So you tell us you're selling it for 120,000 Rand. Amazing. Cool. We'll work together. What we're going to do as step one is we're going to go and negotiate with your hat supply. Going to see if we can bring that price down for you. We're also going to go get your other quotes. Witness went to the first guy because he thought that hat looks cool, but there's 20 other suppliers.
Sure.
We've got them in our database. Let's go and get quotes for you. We can still use your guy, but
and you've got SMD that can get you something in China for
cheap.
cheap.
That's where we started.
Yeah.
So, we'll go and we'll actually put across this and say to you, your 100K cost price you thought you needed, it's actually only 80K. And the nice part is we work on try to do a 70-30 profit share. So 70% will go to the entrepreneur, 30% to SourceFin, and we'll fund up to 100% of the cost price. That's what we aim for. Nice. Obviously, every deal is different. So one guy might have a profit margin of 100% on his deal. Another guy might have a profit margin of 20 or 15%. We want to help everybody. We might just have to vary the profit share on certain deals, but also we'll get you cost savings and maybe lift it. So our view is, let's not be like a bank where we've got a flat rate. Let's go and make it profitable for both parties.
So the value that you actually bring into the deal is the fact that you can take down prices through negotiation, find better suppliers. Then in any case, the money that you're getting from the profit is money that the customer would have paid to the supplier in any case.
Absolutely. And we're sharing that cost saving.
So you're still making money.
So anyway. If you 10 Rand, you benefiting 7, I benefit 3, and we're all making more money and doing better. So that's the difference. That's why we SourceFin. So we're doing finance, but we're also helping you with SourceFin. And you mentioned the SMD. We've got, through our partnerships, and not just with SMD, but we've got thousands and thousands of suppliers we've worked with. It's very hard when you're an SMME. You don't have a lot of confidence, right? So you've started out your company. You don't have money.
Take the first 3
Absolutely.
guys, 3 quotations, choose the best out of the 3.
and go. And Pay up.
I wonder who came up with that rule anyway.
Exactly, right? And pay up front. We'll go and say, we've got the confidence, we've got the experience. Why are we paying up front? Let's ask them for payment terms. Let's ask them for a discount. Let's go and see what we can do. Can we import? We've got SMD, our big brother. They've got a China office. Maybe let's import from China. We're doing that at the moment. Let's bring it in. Do we have enough time? Great. Let's import from China together. We've got a team in China. That is all available to you. We're not charging you for that. That's our 30% profit share. So as a client, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want a team of professionals that are sourcing for you? And you might have your own supply code. No problem. Can we vet the supplier for you? I'll send a guy out. You say that that's the best hat supplier. No problem. Can we go to his factory? Can we make sure that he is a hat supplier? Can we make sure he's not trying to rip you off? We go and do that for you as well. So you know, if we're happy to fund a deal, the deal's going to go right. We've got a 100% track record on service delivery. We haven't funded a deal ever in SourceFin's history that we didn't deliver on. So every single time, the great part is if it's a government tender, or it could be a private, we also do it in the private space, they know that when they issue out this order to a client, they have a 100% chance of that being delivered if SourceFin's involved. And I think that's really a big thing, and it's something we're super proud of.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do as CEO to develop your mindset?
So I think lots of reading, lots of mentorship, constant mentorship, lots of listening and learning to people in different spaces. It sounds crazy, but things like watching YouTube videos, TikToks, it's super important. You've got to understand that people are putting out, as thought leaders, putting out different content on different areas. Sit down and look at it. Some of it might be clickbait or might not be amazing, but pierce through that. There's amazing stories and resources available. We live in such an incredible generation, and we're so lucky that you can pull your phone out, you can go on TikTok, you can listen to the best minds in the country, in the world, and what they've done. You can hear their stories. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, how would you have done it? The only way is maybe reading a book back then. Read, find your way. Some people love reading. They can read a book every 2 days. Other people don't. They're just not their way inclined. So find your thing. Listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, whatever your thing is. But just be constantly learning, constantly taking in more information. Wherever you're at, challenge yourself to push yourself to another level. So that's my thing. Now in December, I had a little bit of a break off working. Every single day, I was either listening to a podcast, reading a book, sitting on the beach with, something in my ear, listening to some of the people that I think are mentors for me or people that I want to aspire to be. Listen to them, hear their stories, hear their journeys. You'll take out little nuggets there and bring it back into your organization. Teach. Every single Friday, we spend an hour to an hour and a half teaching the whole team, working with the whole team. And it's not necessarily exco teaching. Any employee, come and tell us what you learned. Share a risk moment with us. We believe at SourceFin that the only way we can take this company forward is if we're all working together and we're all learning together. If you make a mistake at SourceFin, it's something for us all to learn. Why did you make the mistake? Let's sit down, let's fix it so it never happens again. Have we ever done a deal that we didn't get our money back? Of course we did. But let's learn how we did it and let's make sure that can never happen again. We're not putting you up to, embarrass you in front of your peers. We're saying to you, we together as a team want to learn what was the risk and how could we mitigate it, and put it to the table, put it to the floor. Guys, anything we could have done differently, learn. As a CEO, I'm not the only one that can come up with these things. Everybody in the company, I need to listen, I need to learn. So that's my biggest thing. I think I listen, I learn, I try to interact. I try to make people feel that their voice is heard, because it is heard. I take it so seriously, anything that I hear somebody say, especially our staff, because they're speaking from a place of, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm seeing. And if you can't listen to that as the CEO, if you think it's just your way or the highway, you're never going to take your company forward.
I love the fact that you mentioned TikTok, YouTube, and all these things. So I was looking at my sister's TikTok. It's got all the people that are dancing, singing, and all those things. And I asked her, I'm like, is this all you watch on TikTok? She's like, that's all there is on TikTok. So I take my phone. I'm like, let me show you what's on my TikTok. So on my TikTok, obviously it's business people, it's speakers. And she said, how come? And I said, it's because of the things that you constantly like on TikTok.
The algorithm.
So the algorithm, right? It will give you what you're constantly looking at.
For sure.
Do you think that in life, there is such a thing as the algorithm of life, where like is attracting like all the time?
It's an unbelievable thought, and it's something I haven't thought about like that, but I think it's so true. you are the sort of creator of your own algorithm, right? So do you want to go and watch dance videos? Do you want to go out and is your interest drinking, partying, taking life 1 second at a time? If it is, guess what? You're going to meet those same people. If you're trying to get yourself into a position where you say, guys, go out and have fun at the party. I'm staying in tonight. What do you mean? Josh, why aren't you going out? Guys, we've got an exam in 2 days' time. I want to finish the best way I can finish this degree. No, but it's a cool party. You're going to miss it. Great. Enjoy. They'll go out and meet their people. You working, applying your craft, making sure you get there. Your own algorithm is going to introduce you to those people. And that's how life works. You have to put yourself in a position. How do you meet these incredible people? How do you know them? How do you network? Only way is to be impressive. Why would somebody like that care or want to even listen or speak to you if you don't have your own things to stand on? So for me, absolutely. I've never thought of it like that, but you're the creator of your own algorithm and you can change your algorithm. Today, your algorithm might be on dance videos, but go out and change it. Make it something different. Go out and see what you want to be. But I love that idea. I really do.
So do you think it's something that you can push into spaces that you get into where young people truly understand that and they can then start intentionally changing that algorithm? And if they can, how do they intentionally change it? I mean, you've got people in your organization. Perhaps some of them, they don't even know that they're actually in charge of their algorithm. How do you then make them aware and that they can be intentionally changing it?
So it's a deep question. It's a tough one because you're right. And sometimes it's a maturity thing and sometimes people need to learn it themselves, you know? So, and I think a hard thing is when people don't necessarily see it. They don't understand it. You look at a friend, why do things always drop for him? Why does everything just work for him? He's just that guy. You know, everyone thinks,
why does he always attract the best stuff?
How does it work? This guy always, everything he wants, he just finds a way. And I think it's just about having the mindset to say, nobody's a victim. You can't sit there thinking things always go wrong for me. How come it just works for him? This guy just finds a way. Probably that person that you're thinking of is doing a lot of things behind the scenes, building the algorithm, taking chances. You see a business, you go, this guy's so successful. He's made so much money. Maybe he had 9 businesses that failed before their 10th business. You just don't even realize. So it is hard and people need to come to that realization on their own. That's the truth. It's very hard to make somebody, to force them. It's hard to take them there. I think it's something that I'm hoping comes with a bit of maturity and people look at. Maybe if you're listening to this podcast or, you know, you're thinking about yourself and you're not where you want to be, don't write it off. Don't be upset. You see your cousin or friend or brother that's doing so well. Just take an honest look and say, are they doing things? Are they disciplined? Are they working super hard? Are they taking in information? Am I doing what they're doing? And if I did fail, what have I learned from my failures? What can I improve? Have I really given this 100%? And how can I build my algorithm? Start from scratch. Literally, new account. You've deleted your old TikTok account. Start today. What do I need to do? Go into somebody that you look up to. Go and see who they follow. Go and see who they interact with. Go and get an idea. And I think you'll find very quickly that that whole concept of building your own algorithm, you can always, it's never too late. You can always start and you can take it from tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Start fresh and build it. But I think discipline and having that self-awareness is very, very important.
Yeah. Is there a link between spirituality and success?
It's a tough one. Look, there probably is. For me, it's difficult because I've got my own journey in terms of my own spirituality, where I want to be. I find that my success in terms of my professional career and everything came at a time when my spirituality was probably where I'm the furthest away from it, which is just something that I need to work on in my own time. And I mentioned to you earlier, like places I want to be at 35, 40, 45. A big part of that is from a spiritual perspective, where do I want to be at? Can grow a lot as a professional, but am I growing as a person spiritually, religiously? Am I there for my family? All of those things. So it's a hard one for me because I'm probably at my best professionally, but at my worst spiritually as a person at the moment. So it's a difficult one for me. I know it's a deep answer, but it's a difficult one for me at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very good answer. Do you have any favorite quotes?
You know what? Offhand, I'd love to just quote you stuff from a book, but I'll tell you what I find is the quote, and I mentioned it earlier. The thing that I find the best for me is just to say that, just like my mentor told me, to a client, they are one of many, but to them, you are their only one. And whether it's their only lawyer, whatever it is. And for me, the reason why I say that's so important is because at SourceFin, we've got hundreds of clients. We really do. But if we think we can treat you as one of 100, we will lose you overnight. We will lose market share overnight. We will be nothing. And for me, something that I always, it might not be a quote, it's more maybe a principle or concept, is something I've always said to the team. You're not better than, or no client is better than any other. If this is a blue chip whale client today, bringing you in a 10 million rand profit deal, and tomorrow someone with a 200,000, 20,000 rand deal walks through the door, you can never treat them differently. Number one, that's just not what we at SourceFin adhere to. But number two, we've had people who started, we took a chance on a 50 grand deal. We got them to 3.8 million rand within 6 months. So treat that person with the same respect as you would. That 10 million rand guy, you might never see him again. He might defraud you. Doesn't matter. Treat them the same. And as the CEO, if somebody walks through the door, I'll go and personally greet them. I'll make sure they're offered something to drink. I'll make sure that they feel at home here. And it's something that I absolutely insist our team does as well. So for me, I know your question was about a quote, but it's more about a principle. If you are an entrepreneur, especially if you're dealing with people and you're in the service industry, client is absolutely king. How many times can you think of a restaurant experience where you went to go eat food and it was ruined because you had such poor service? You felt like you had to wait for a table. You felt like your waiter or waitress didn't see you. You felt like when you placed your order, there were a million problems. The person wasn't happy with what you ordered. The food took long. You'll never go there again, right? How many times can you think of a restaurant where maybe the food isn't a 10 out of 10, but you feel like a king? And there's I'm going to sort of name drop them. I have no affiliation to them, but just people that I've thought of. There's a franchise called Marble and a chef, I don't know. Marble. Yeah. And the pantry and, David Hicks. And this is definitely, I haven't had the opportunity to meet him properly, but something I've always taken from him. If you go to his restaurants, whether it's Marble, whether it's Saint, any of them, there's always a queue of people at the door, from the hostess all the way through to when you're leaving, thanking you, greeting you, making sure when you order that your food is brought to you quickly, making sure it's to your liking. And that client service that you get is the reason why they're so successful. It's the reason why they can charge whatever prices they charge or whatever they do, because they make sure that the client has the best possible experience. So for me, if you're an entrepreneur, worry about your client. Think about your client. Leave yourself, your own problems. Did your client have a good experience? That's your most important thing you need to think about.
Sure. 3 books that you think people should read?
So I'm reading
before they turn 30.
Before 30. So I'm reading a book. So I'm reading a few at the moment that I'm really enjoying. So the one's Never Split the Difference.
Never Split the Difference. I think I've heard of it. Who's the author?
So I've lost it because I'm reading so many things at once. I think it's Chris Voss.
Chris Voss.
I think, am I right? And he's an expert in negotiations. I think his background was a lot sort of like in the army, police, military, all that. He literally is an expert in negotiation, especially when it's hostages. So he brings that in and he explains to you how in a business scenario, you can adapt those same principles when you're negotiating. And what I love about it is, you think negotiation is, I'm not a businessman, why do I need to learn negotiation? And something that I've learned is every interaction you have in some way is a negotiation. You want somebody to do something for you. You ask them something. You're negotiating, right? In some way or another, our communication, our exchange, they're different things. The way that you speak, the voice, you can put on different voices. He speaks about 3 different voices. You can change your tonality of your voice. You can change the volume of your voice. You can feel really like you're taking somebody in and you're there for them. But you can also be aggressive. Some people always feel like they're shouting at you. They got to change their tone or their voice. So he gives you these amazing ideas. We were speaking about communication earlier. He's got these amazing ways of how he was able to deal with hostage negotiations. How do you make somebody that's taken a bank? He tells a story about a bank robber and people that were, taken hostage there. He was on the phone to that bank robber and how he used his skills to make sure that he got all of those hostages out and he dealt with the situation. And you learn amazing things. So for me, if you had to go read a book tomorrow, I would say go and read Never Split the Difference. But can I tell you, there's so many different books and different podcasts and different thought leaders. I've read books about autobiographies on sports people that you think, well, how does that make a difference? Go read Rusty Rasmus's book. Go and read about the Eskom saga and De Ruyter's book. Take principles out of there and adapt them to your life. So for me, that's what I always do. When I read a book, I've always got my note. I've either got my iPad or my phone next to me. And I'll immediately, as I'm reading, I'll jot down something I've learned. And I'll think, how can I adapt that to SourceFin? And Never Split the Difference is one I've been reading in December. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to do a boot camp with my team and take those principles that I learned from Never Split the Difference and say, guys, tell me about this. And we're actually going to do some role playing. So I'm going to bring them in as the client, and I'm going to be the deal manager at SourceFin. And I'm going to use some of those techniques that I read in the book, and we're going to see how it plays out. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well.
So I met one of your deal managers in the bathroom, and then the first thing he did is compliment my shoes. So I look at them, I'm like, oh, this guy is smart. He's making me feel welcome. So any last words that you want to say to somebody? You can look at that camera.
Sure.
Could be inspiration. It could be some guidelines or some tip. Someone could be sitting at home saying, look at this white guy talking from a position of privilege.
Sure.
What is it that you can say to inspire them and for them to start doing something tomorrow?
Cool. So I think if you're listening to this and you're a young South African, and it doesn't matter what you want to achieve, but I think the most important thing that I would say to you is be humble, have a strong work ethic and attitude, and force yourself to better yourself every single day. However you do that is up to you. Go out and acquire knowledge, acquire information. You don't have to go and study at a fancy university. Go and gain experience, go and gain information. We're so lucky we live in an age where you can teach yourself. You can go on YouTube. You've got so many different various sources of information. Go and make yourself an expert in your thing. What is it you love doing, and be the best at it? There's that 10,000 hour rule that they talk about. Go and put in your 10,000 hours. Go and take this. Don't ever let your own attitude and your own privilege get in the way of it. Start from scratch. You could be 5 years old, or you could be 13. But go out, put in the time, put in the effort, and make yourself the best at something. Everybody can be an expert in something. Go out and find it, do it, put in the hard work, be humble. And once you have your own business and start, always put client above everything else. Client is king, no matter what.
Sure. Client is king, no matter what. Guys, if you're not inspired by that, I don't know what's going to inspire you. And like I said in the beginning, comment, let us know what your thoughts are and which part of this conversation you resonate with or resonates with you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to click on that subscribe button, share this video so that it can reach as many entrepreneurs as possible, so that they can have access to funding, isn't it? The country is always complaining. People are always complaining about access to funding. And there are companies that are actually solving that problem. And my duty and your duty is to ensure that more people are getting access to this information, that they can eventually have access to that funding. From my team and Josh, broadcasting from his office at SourceFin in Johannesburg, South Africa, it's more than just money. See you in the next episode. Ciao, ciao.